A good day to everyone. Today, thanks to a friend, I want to talk about something I found, a very interesting short video from one Robert Lustig, a medical doctor from the USA connected with neurology. And the main thing he was talking about was the difference between pleasure and happiness. He made the difference between some characteristics. For instance, to him, pleasure is short-lived, while happiness is long-standing, it's longer-lived. Pleasure is more visceral, is more connected with our guts, while happiness is more ethereal. Uh, Pleasure is more about taking, namely for ourselves, taking stuff, taking things, situations to ourselves. Happiness is more on the side of giving something to other people, to the world, and so on. Pleasure to him can be achieved mostly with substances and with behavior of some sorts, while happiness cannot really be achieved with any substances. Usually, pleasure is experienced alone, while happiness is very much connected with being with others, sharing with others, social groups, and so on. Uh, Extremes of pleasure might produce addiction, while it's not so easy to say that we can be addicted to happiness. And neurologically speaking, pleasure is connected with dopamine, while happiness is connected with serotonin. Now, there are some considerations he makes that I want to follow here, namely that dopamine is mostly exciting the next neurons. When dopamine is released within our functioning nervous system, it mostly excites neurons. Now, if the excitement is too intense for too long, then neurons die from it, or before this happens, they sort of produce a downregulation, reducing the receptors for dopamine, and therefore reducing the number of receptors available to be excited, and this produces a reduction in pleasure from dopamine, so that next time we need more dopamine to get the same amount of pleasure. And if we go for it, increasing the search for pleasure and the products that produce pleasure or the behaviors that produce pleasure to increase the dopamine, and we have this kind of gut feeling, we get in trouble, because then we are eventually even promoting the death of some neurons, and that in turn can also increase the tendency for um, well, getting numbed down. Eventually we can get to a point, he's not speaking about this, but we know it, we can get to a point where we are more apathic in a way. We are getting really numbed down. We don't react in the same way to situations that previously we would produce a natural, normal amount of pleasure. And we have this tendency to get addicted, yet to increase the dosages of whatever is bringing pleasure to us. And this, of course, is not so healthy. Well, he also talks about the difference of, that concerns the way serotonin has effects on our nervous system. Because serotonin is not so much exciting the next neurons, it's slowing them down. And as it does that, it helps producing feelings of contentment and happiness and well-being. But too much dopamine tends to down-regulate serotonin, to suppress the amount of available serotonin. And neurologically speaking, then too much pleasure brings unhappiness. It reduces happiness, does not increase it. Of course, he brings our attention to the fact that then we are being fooled by governments and big corporations that try to equate pleasure with happiness, so they can sell us products that promote behavior and that promote substances that increase pleasure momentarily, even like sugar or chocolate, and they equate it with happiness, while they tend to bring down happiness. Actually, we see it all the time. We see sometimes rich people that consume lots of different situations, behaviors, and substances, and they are becoming miserable and totally unsatisfied. Also, many of them will become self-centered, and they are not so pro-social, they are not so compassive, they are not so attracted to big ideals. They are going in the opposite direction from spirituality in a way, and that drives them miserable, actually, with or without noticing what is happening to them. And of course, in previous videos also brought our attention to the fact that normally it's common that pleasure and happiness are on the side of attractions, but pleasure tends to bring us to indeed short-lived attractions, to objects, to situations, specific behaviors, selfish stuff sometimes, while happiness is on the side of attraction to other people, to the world, to nature, to big things that cannot be bought, but big things like general values, like compassion and love, like friendship, like the arts and culture, like enjoying what promotes humanity at its best. That's more about serotonin indeed. And pleasure that we can buy many times is really going on the opposite direction. It's damaging our possibilities for real happiness. But then again, if we go for happiness, we need less consumerism. We need less products and things and behaviors and situations. We mostly need to be satisfied inside of ourselves and to feel a permanent attraction to the universe, nature, the divine, or big values, nice situations, towards really sharing something in common with lots of other living beings, and that we cannot buy. So big companies don't like us to be really happy in a way, or spiritual also, because that goes against consumerism, and it goes against the possibility of keeping us captive of their carrots, the kind of carrots they place in front of us, so we rush towards getting them. Once again, I'm a little bit anti-consumerism, and I think what the big companies are doing when they are confusing systematically and probably on purpose pleasure and happiness, because pleasure they can sell, they are damaging our planet because they are inciting consumerism and plastics and the whole nasty things that we are placing around us and in nature. And this is the main idea, the main message for today, what I wanted to talk about. But let me also add something. I noticed that lately it's very hard for people to know about my videos. It looks like some nasty algorithms are at work now, because I have talked about things that are not so popular to corporations, namely big ones, and it looks like they are stopping the promotion of my videos in many different ways. So once again, if you like it, please comment, share, subscribe, but mostly share with friends, because otherwise some people are blocking a lot of what I'm doing. So see you around.